It's time for
It's Fanboy Weekly for all you geeks, nerds, and blurs. Let's get our geek on.
Welcome back to the 5x5 Fanboy Weekly. I'm your host, David. And sorry I'm late. I know it is like, 1:30 almost, 1:24. I'm going to blame it on the weather, even though that's a lie. It's not a lie. You know, you have to... you have to support those who support you. And my good friend and friend of the show, Todd Morris, aka Prankville, is on right now having a show. And I had scheduled my show for 1 o'clock, but I wanted to support him because he always is very supportive of my show. And so appreciate that. So I was over there, hung out with Desert Rose earlier. So I supported my friends, and I couldn't let my nerves wait too long. So the King Blurred is here. Well, kind of. Maybe not the king. Maybe because they're old. Maybe the prince. And don't get cute. Not the princess, right? I'm here. And we got a couple things to talk about this week. From this week, I guess you should say. And it's just been the one thing that I have. Remember last week I told you guys I was crafting different little things that are going to end up in the blurredhq.blogspot.com. There's a store page on there along with my eBay auctions. And I'm going to... I've been crafting some of that stuff to put in the store because I like the looks. I've seen some of the things at some of the cons, the con that I went to so far this year, and I'm like, well, I can do that. And although I've told you guys I'm not a very crafty person, I've been to I've made some successes in that arena by recycling old comic books and turning them into some form of art. And it's art to somebody. If you listen to my last show on the 5x5 late night show, I asked the question, what is art, or is that art? And the questions. And so I had to ask myself, is this good enough? And I'm probably my worst critic. I actually took my crafting stuff to work and had a project for us to do while I was at work, and it turned out to be very enjoyable, very fun, and we're going to do it again tomorrow. It's not slave labor, y'all, so don't get the wrong idea, but we had fun with it. I let them keep let my clients keep the things that they made. They turned out really, 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 really cool. So look for that coming soon to the blurredhq.blogspot.com. And I've been talking to a lot of interesting people on Twitter. You can always send me a tweet at the 5x5 on Twitter, and the 5s are numerical. And we also have the Facebook pages for the 5x5 and the Blurred HQ. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys had a great nerd weekend. I have another nerd weekend coming up. I had the nerd weekend where I seen Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Then also I went to the con, and I did something else. I can't remember. That weekend was such a blur, but I had a lot of fun. I met some interesting people. Always give these guys a plug because I think they're hilarious and I think they're cool. Thought Bubbles with Kristen and Elaine. Check their podcast out. I believe it's thoughtbubbles.podbean.com. They're hilarious. And they're also on iTunes, and they're also on Twitter @_thoughtbubbles. And they're really funny. I enjoy listening to those guys. But what else? But I have my second nerd weekend is this coming weekend. I took off from work on Saturday. Oh, if you guys could hear this thunder, it's making my whole entire house shake. And my dog is absolutely flipping out. Anybody want a chocolate lab? Y'all can have him because he's getting on my nerves, really. But and so this coming weekend, we have Spider-Man coming out on the 2nd, which that is Friday. I'm not going to go see it Friday. I'm going to go see it Saturday because I'm off that day. But it's also free comic book day. So, every free comic book day, your local comic store provides free comic books for all of us fans of the artwork, fans of the stories, fans of just the comic book genre itself. And so, um, so if you want to go, if you don't read comic books right now, you might go and find something you do like. And if you have a young person in your life and that they like comic books or they like artwork, because a lot of the comic book stores, even the ones that I go to, well, one of them, they have local artists, they have an artist gallery along with, and then a lot of these stores who don't participate in free comic book day, they use it as a sale day. Because I know the one store here in town that doesn't participate in free comic book day, that particular store has crazy sales. I mean, last year I think I got 20 different comic books for like $10, if no, like $5, because they were a quarter a piece. So I'm like, so I'll be there, so I'll be running. And thing is, here's the really bad thing: I'm such a crazy nerd that one of my friends is getting married, and I'm skipping the wedding because it's going to interrupt free comic book day. Am I wrong? Am I wrong for that? I'm going to buy her a gift. I'm going to I'm going to go to Bed Bath and Beyond this week, and I will be um I will be I got my train of thought. I will be buying her a gift from Bed Bath and Beyond, and I will send the gift. You know how you can send it? You can do the registry, and you don't have to even wrap it. They'll do everything there. I'm going to do that on Tuesday because she's getting married. But the thing is, who gets married at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day? I got things to do. And you know what? And this year, which I'm kind of upset about it because this is something my nephew and we do together. He's not going to be able to go because he's a Mr. Sparty Pants like his uncle, and he's part of a academic team that's having a big competition, a citywide competition on Saturday. So he's not going to be able to go either. So I'm like, I'm going to be rolling solo. So if anybody lives in Southern Indiana and you want to roll with, hey, Desert Rose. Hey, Desert. Oh, Desert came by. I told everybody that I was supporting my friend's shows earlier. So that's why I was like 15, 20 minutes late today. But yeah, I am so skipping the wedding for free comic book day. And Desert Rose, guys, check out Desert Rose here on Spreaker.com. She's graduating with a art degree. And so I want to ask her some tips. I might have Desert call in on my show. We should do a show together. About some arts, about my new crafting things. I have some Mod Podge questions. I have some dimensional magic questions. The best things to make magnets out of. I have a lot of questions, Desert Rose. So I'll be talking to you very soon. But yeah, so my nephew's not going. So if anybody wants to go with me that lives in the area, I will pick you up because sometimes I don't like rolling solo. Although I know people when I get there. She got her degree 2 weeks ago. Well, I knew you graduated. And congratulations! Applause, like Gaga. And so, I don't like rolling solo. So I'm like, I need to get that done. I needed somebody to come with me. But if I'm rolling by myself if I have to, because between the two stores that I go to, I can get just about all the comic books that I want. So I can get probably anywhere from 6 to, well, I know I can get 6, so I'm for about 15 to 20. Is that greedy? I'm not being greedy, but hey, they're there for free, and I like to read comic books, and I have a separate box for my free comic book day comics. They're in a separate box away from everything else. It's so funny here. When I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I talk with my hands. I'm one of those kind of people that talks with their hands, and so when I'm telling you about the comic book box, that's a separate one, I'm like moving my hands to the left. Yeah, I have problems, right? And so no, so That's going to happen on Saturday. And if you remember a few weeks ago, and I've been talking about it, and I might play a little excerpt from the interview for today, but I spoke with the creator of Free Comic Book Day about a month ago. His name is Joe Field, out of Concord, California. And I think it's Concord. And we talked about Free Comic Book Day, what's going on, how we're going to, what they're going to do this year, how many books, the history. A great individual to talk to. So check out the interview with Joe Field. It was a really, really good, great guy. He obviously has a passion for what he does, or he wouldn't have created this event for all of us nerds, blurs, geeks, or even just to, for new people who's not used to the genre. He made it for you guys too, because it's for everybody. Everybody's invited, and it helps the retailers as well, because you always need to support, if you have one in your city, your local comic book stores, because you don't want that. So many things have gone to digital. Although Marvel has digital, you have Comixology. DC has an app where you can read the comic books online digitally, but it's something about having that book in your hand that's collectible, and you want to feel it, touch it. That's when I used to sell furniture. People want to feel it, touch it, and sit on it. So I don't think you want to sit in your comic book. But Desert Rose says she talks with her hands too. I feel silly when I do it. But so that's the thing. So it's something about opening that comic book and actually seeing the artwork and getting up in it and appreciating. Because before, I was a lover of the story. It's more about the story than it was about, not that it wasn't about the artwork, because I liked the artwork and I know what I liked and what I didn't like. But now I'm getting to know artist names and who I like to do certain drawings of certain characters, and I like different people who do different things artistically through the comic book. So enough of that. We're going to take a quick. You talk with, you know what? There's idiots, Jersey bees. You can say whatever you want about me. Doesn't faze me. No shade. Not even let you stay in the chat room. Hey, Grandpa Al. Let's take a little break. I wasn't prepared because I was too busy doing other stuff. I'm always doing more than I should be at one time. And plus I worked today as well. I worked today, and that went well, because I said I did a little crafting project with my clients, and so that was fun for them. And we're gonna see. I can't even get my stuff right because I can't find the right song to play right now. Sorry. There we go. It's not a very long song, and we'll play a couple for you guys tonight. Like I said, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing really good, and the rain's finally coming. It's crazy raining outside right now. So if the power goes off, we're gonna go ahead and say goodnight. If the power goes off, it shouldn't go off. I think we'll be fine. Thank you guys for listening. It's the 5x5 Fanboy Weekly. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is the 5x5 Fanboy Weekly, and I'm sitting here chatting with my boys and girls in the chat room. Grandpa Al, who is now Granddaddy ALK, and the lovely and always supportive Desert Rose, and Jersey Bees, who kind of said something mean to me a while ago, but hey, I'm too old to get offended by stuff. Won't do it. Anyhow, we're back and we're just talking about some nerd things going on in the world of nerddom. Did you guys hear about the drama? Not even the drama, the scandal behind the ET the extraterrestrial. And I've seen people were going to a landfill and it had ET, and I kind of glanced at it. I seen it on television earlier, and I'm like, I wonder what that's about, you know. And I will say, and I'll be the first person to say it, I have never watched the ET movie all the way through. Never ever. Never have watched it. And I'm like, I don't know why. I don't have a reason why. Well, I do know, right? I do know. I do know why I haven't seen it, because to me it was boring. It was on like TBS or something the other day, and I'm like, this is the most silly shit. But it's outdated now. But anyhow, when Atari was really, really big, and everybody had the Atari 2600 and had all the video game cartridges for the Atari. Well, in 1983, Atari banked on acquiring the rights to Steven Spielberg's E.T. film. It turned out that due to the game being so bad, as well as the console crash that happened that year, Atari found that they had a surplus of the game on hand. So what did they do? They dumped them all at a landfill near the city of, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Alamogordo. Or Alamogordo. Something like that. And so they're obviously still there. What's interesting about the story was it was never confirmed until 30 years later, when Microsoft Xbox Entertainment Studios dug up E.T. for their upcoming documentary about the video game industry. And so what had happened, they dug up, because they wanted to find where Atari had dumped all these ET games. So they're at this landfill and they're digging up with a backhoe, and there's all these boxes of the Atari 2600 ET the extraterrestrial game. Can y'all believe that? I thought it was interesting. That was one of the games that I never had. Oh, I thought you called me a bad word. No hate. I just thought you said something bad to me, Jersey Bees. I'm talking to the chat room, everybody. So that's cool. That's cool. Just making sure, because sometimes people come in and say crazy stuff. But it's all good. I don't hold no grudges or anything. But you're cool. I'm cool. We're cool. So the ET thing, that was kind of interesting. But also, if you look on eBay, some of these, or even look up Atari games, some of these games are out of control. They're out of control prices. Like history. I actually sold 3 Atari games, and I think I got like $5 a piece. No, one was $2.50, one was like $4, and one was $5, plus the shipping. And I sold 3, and I can't remember. One was Double Dunk basketball, or double dunk basketball, another basketball game, and something that was never I don't remember the name. Anyhow, but some of these games, there's one game, and I can't remember the name of it, it's worth like $30,000 for an Atari 2600 video game. $30,000. So I'm like, I need to go. And so I went to a flea market one weekend, and then this guy had a big box full of Atari games, but he was giving me a lot of shade, so I wasn't looking through them. But then I read that article. That after I went to the flea market, and then so I'm like, the next weekend I'm going out there and I'm going to buy the whole box, because I think he wanted like 10 cents a piece for them, because you don't know, you can find some treasures in these flea markets, right? But I went back and he was giving me a whole lot of attitude. I said, hey, didn't you have the Atari video games? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he gave me more shade. I'm like, this is why you're sitting here and nobody's at your table, because you got too much attitude. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. Um, but yeah, so look up the article about the ET games being in the dump the landfill, because there was a surplus, because Atari thought that the game was going to take off like the movie did, but it didn't. And then I read another really, really interesting article. Friday is the American debut of Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's getting some rave reviews. It's going to do really, really well. But there's this guy, and if you go to moviepilot.com and type in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 web shooter, there was this guy who actually made a web shooter. I mean, I'm a nerd, but I'm not a tech nerd. What's it called? Tech nerd. I'm not a tech nerd, and I can't build stuff like that because I will burn down the house. Believe me. But he made this really, really cool Spider-Man web shooter that actually, it doesn't shoot a web, but it shoots a string that has like a little projectile on the end, and then it pulls it back to you. And he's described it. So you have to go to here's the name of the YouTube video that you guys can check it out. It's called the Electromagnetic Spider-Man Web Shooter. So check that out. I thought that was interesting, that you guys might want to see it for all you Spider-Man fans. But we're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the 5 X-Men The Last Stand mistakes that we want Days of Future Past to correct. And the title of our Fanboy Weekly show, Wolverine D.O.A. Did you guys know they're killing Wolverine? Yeah. And lastly, we'll talk about the nerdiest states in America. You're going to be surprised where I need to move, because I'm obviously not living in the right nerd state. But it's pretty interesting. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Thank you guys for listening. One thing you guys do not know, Xanadu is one of my, it's, I wouldn't say it's in my top 10, but it's in my top 20 favorite movies of all time. I'm absolutely infatuated with, well, at the time, with Olivia Newton-John. And today, even today, the other day I talked about this on the show, um, I, j- I burst out singing Xanadu for no reason whatsoever. This is what kind of a geek I am. But hey, I'm a good geek. And so I start bursting out singing. I'm like, why am I singing this song? And then I almost start doing the dance steps. I'm like, yeah, Dave, you need to really bring that on back and bring it on down because that ain't hot, right? And so, and then today, no, last night, I was I was searching for pieces of the movie because for some reason I lost my copy because I did have a copy. I've owned it on VHS and I did find it on DVD. And I try. It's around here somewhere. I think between from my move from Atlanta back to Southern Indiana, I think somewhere it's probably stuck in a box somewhere. But anyhow, I absolutely love the movie. I love the idea because I've always been that's why I love Wonder Woman so much because I've always been infatuated and a fan of Greek mythology. You know, Wonder Woman's mythos is based in Greek mythology, and so is Xanadu. You know, the nine muses of Zeus. Um, that inspires artistic creation. And so that was what the Olivia Newton-John character, she played Kara, the muse, and she did a really, really great number with Gene Kelly. I don't know if that was one of his last movies that he did, you know, because it bombed terribly, but it has a big cult following because the Cheyenne Jackson led Broadway production was very successful, nominated for several Tony Awards. But the songs were good. It was done by the light bright light something orchestra. Because remember, suddenly I feel the emotion, and I remember that. Yes, your boy can sing a little bit, right? And then there was I Have to Believe We're Magic. And what was the other one? There was another one. Oh, and then the Gene Kelly one was Whenever You're Away. And that was a great number. And when I watched it last night, and you look at Gene Kelly and how good, how Singing in the Rain, Gene Kelly, for you younger folk, people who don't know, um, he was magnificent, not to be mistaken for Maleficent. He was magnificent. Even in that role, he just shown, you know, just how great he was. Even in this kind of B movie that it kind of got deemed as when it came out in 19 I was wrong 19 I think it was 1983 or 1980 when it was 1980 when it came out, and he danced Olivia Newton-John under the table, but she was gorgeous. She was absolutely stunning back then. But anyhow, that was my homage to Xanadu. And and Grandpa Al says, or Granddaddy ALK says, geeks are awesome. He's a part-time geek and a techno twerker. I want to know what a techno twerker is on steroids. And he's like, I fix his own computers and not with bubblegum. You need to do something with my computer, Grandpa Al, because it acts a fool on occasion. Okay, so back on topic. Sorry about my little Xanadu interlude. Um, if you guys remember, in 2006, X-Men The Last Stand came out, and everybody was so excited because we were finally getting the Dark Phoenix saga. And I know when I left the theater, because I seen it at the Regal in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was mad that I had wasted my money, wasted my time going to the Regal to see X-Men The Last Stand, and it was horrible. And everybody, I used to have friends that weren't into comic books, didn't know the history, and they were like, well, that's not fair, David, because, you know, you want to have other people. And I think this is the ideology behind most superhero comic book movies. You know, you want to bring more people in. That's not made for the fanboys and fangirls. You want to bring more people in so they can enjoy it, and they can also pay a respect to the hero that is based on. And so, but it didn't even do it for the new people, because one of the most, in this article that I found on comicbookresources.com, it was talking about 5 things that X-Men Last Stand did. We're hoping that Days of Future Past, which comes out on May 23rd, addresses and takes care of. Even the screenwriter Simon Kinberg admitted that the 2006 X-Men Last Stand shortcomings in his appearance at WonderCon last weekend. And he said, it is our attempt to right the wrongs of the past. We probably should have done a better job with Dark Phoenix. So this is our attempt to do better with Days of Future Past. Every X-Men fan in existence knows that the word probably should be exchanged for the word definitely in order to accurately convey both how important the Dark Phoenix saga is to the mythos of the X-Men and just how horribly the film handled it. But at least the people behind this X-Men Days of Future Past know what they're fighting against. And as a fan favorite ensemble cast, franchise taught us knowing is half the battle. And so the first thing that we should fix from the article is Cyclops' death. That's a no-brainer. They took one of an original X-Man who is like the sound leader of the team, and you let Jean Grey, the Phoenix, kill him, which was a really, really bad Jean Grey Phoenix. Although I love Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, I thought she did a good job, but the writing and how Brett Ratner directed, it was horrible. The animation, the CGI was horrible. How did you have a Phoenix with no fire? I don't know how they did it. Anyhow, and so the article says, love him or hate him, you have to acknowledge that Cyclops is one of the most important characters in the X-Men universe. The X-Men without Cyclops is like the Avengers without Captain America. Without Cyclops, the X-Men feel unmoored and aimless. His return to life means the X-Men have a direction. Now, I don't know if James Marsden is going to reprise his role as Cyclops, but there was a hint, and I think it was in one of the trailers, that people thought it was Cyclops because the energy beam, his ocular beam, looked similar, but it was his brother Havoc, which is also an X-Man, was also in X Factor in the comic books. I forget his last name. I mean his first name. Anyhow, so that's one thing they need to take care of. Then you have the death of Jean Grey, and not Jean Grey. She's died a lot of times in the comic books, even as different people. But the way they handled it, when Jean Grey finally comes to her senses as the Dark Phoenix, it really wasn't during Jean Grey. It was the cosmic entity, the Phoenix, but the portion of Jean Grey's subconscious was able to suppress the Phoenix entity long enough to commit suicide. Pretty much, she killed herself. She sacrificed herself to save her friends and to save the universe. And then she was killed again when as Madeline Pryor. Remember, Madeline Pryor was a prior version of Jean Grey that was created by Mr. Sinister. And also, then she died in Phoenix Endsong, was brought back to life, and then she left again. And then they killed the Phoenix entity again in X-Men versus Avengers. So there's been a lot of the Phoenix Jean Grey characters that die. Right now, there's a Jean from the past in the comic books. I didn't really like the trial of Jean Grey. I didn't really know what was going on. It confused me. But anyhow, but they let Wolverine kill her in the movie, which a lot of fans like, this is not what happened. She died on the moon. And they didn't even, kind of approach that, remotely, which it could have been a big story. But I guess if you that big of scale, then what's that, 8 years ago? Could they have done it? Because if they're on the moon and they're fighting the Shi'ar, then they're bringing that whole intergalactic thing that we're going to get in August with Guardians of the Galaxy. But anyhow, the character Rogue is the third thing that we want Days of Future Past to correct from The Last Stand. Because you remember in The Last Stand, the last time we seen Rogue, she had given up her powers to the Cure, but we know that doesn't work because Magneto obviously has his powers have came back to him as we've seen in the previews to Days of Future Past. But they said Rogue and a Pac-1 is not going to get a lot of screen time. No, and there was a lot of kind of drama about it on Twitter a couple weeks ago. They're like, the part that she played in the new movie is on the cutting room floor, but maybe they put it back because there was some fan uproaring about it. But the time Days of Future Past took on in the comic books, Rogue was still a villain, or she wasn't even in the comics at all at that point. Because you remember she was part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants under her mother, Mystique. And so I don't know how they're going to weave that in there, because Mystique is really Rogue's adopted mother. So I'm glad that's in there. Well, that's not in there, but I'm glad they're in there, but they never made that connection in the movies. So we need to make Rogue bring Rogue back as a strong person. Remember, because she took Ms. Marvel's powers, and let her fly. We want to see that. The Juggernaut was the fourth thing they needed to correct. I don't think he's in Days of Future Past, but a lot of fans were mad that they took the connection from the Juggernaut, K. Marco, being Professor X's brother, and made him some British oaf, as the article says, and kind of treated him poorly, which he could have not been in The Last Stand and it would have been totally fine. And then the last thing was change the bleakness of it. You can't have a movie and kill off 3 of the top X-Men characters. Professor X, which, he's back, but they killed him. So I'm interested to see how they're going to bring him back in this movie, how they're going to introduce it. And they said it will be explained, so we all have something to look forward to. But also, Scott Summers and then Jean Grey. That all happened in the last time we seen the X-Men with their first outing, minus first, what was that movie called? When the last movie with James Fassbender. Anyhow, so don't kill a lot of people that we like, because that's not going to sit well. But then comic book characters die all the time, and then we bring them back to life, and everything's right with the world. So let's see, what else do we have to go over before I have to go to bed? I have a lot to do on Monday, and I'm talking a little bit much. Well, I think we can afford to have one little break. I'm going to play the Free Comic Book Day excerpt with Joe Field, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the Death of Wolverine and the Nerdy Estates. Thank you guys for listening. It's the 5x5 Fanboy Weekly. We will be we'll be right back in a second because I don't have it queued up. Sorry. So unprofessional. Get your act together, 5x5, right? Let's see what we got here. Oh, and check out the new show. I have a new show on Blog Talk Radio called Comic Booked, and that show is every Thursday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, if Blog Talk Radio can get that fixed, because I've had to finagle some things just to get it to work. But it's strictly comic books, nothing else. We're just talking about comic books, new comic book day, what came out that week that I actually picked up, and I'll talk about some of that tonight before we go. And it's all comic books, and it's interactive. Call in, talk about what you picked up, talk about some of the storylines that are going on. So check out blogtalkradio.com/comic booked, BOOKED.
And today we have a very special guest, the founder and creator of Free Comic Book Day, Mr. Joe Field. Hello, Joe. How are you doing? Thank you for being on the 5x5 today.
Great to be with you, David. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, because what I was thinking about, I said, I need to do a Free Comic Book Day show because it's something that comic books I love, and I have all these kind of fanboy things on my website and the shows that I do, and I'm like, what an awesome idea is to talk to somebody from Free Comic Book Day. And so I emailed the organization, and Mr. Field, Joe, he said he would talk to us, and I'm like, oh, wow, I get to talk to somebody who's actually this event that I've enjoyed going to, and I guess I missed the memo because I've only went for the last 2 years. How long has Free Comic Book Day been in existence?
Well, the one coming up will be our 13th annual. So it's been going on since 2002, and that's a lot of comics that we've given away over the years.
Yeah, because I'm like, I remember the first year I went, and they're like, well, they're giving free comic books away at the comic book store today. I'm like, what are you talking about? They don't do that. They're like, yes, they do. So I always tell people I'm a fanboy come lately because I always get the news almost like a day late, but I was able to get over there, and I think I got a few. I think it was the year they had a Buffy book, or if I remember correctly. I still have it. And so 13 years giving away free comic books, that's a long time. For me to miss it. How did it start? What made you personally say, okay, I want to do something for the community. I want to bring new readers into the genre. What did you say, like, this is what we're going to do? How did that come about?
Well, here's the deal. I've been in the comic book business for a long time. I've been a fan since 1967, but I've also been in the business of comics since the mid-1980s. I worked for a cup of coffee for Stan Lee doing public relations back in the mid-'80s, and then I also did public relations and advertising and was one of the co-founders of WonderCon when it was in Oakland, California. So that was all prior to opening my own store, which is called Flying Colors Comics and Other Cool Stuff in Concord, California, and we opened in October 1988. So I've been through it. I've seen a lot over the last 28 years, and at the time that I first proposed Free Comic Book Day, it was after a not really great period in comics history. The late 90s, it looked like things were just completely falling apart. Marvel was in bankruptcy. Circulations were going down. It was not a very healthy market. But when I wrote a column in 2001 proposing Free Comic Book Day, I did it because I recognized that things were turning around, that there were publishers were getting healthy again. The storytelling was getting a whole lot better in comics. There was just a lot of excitement going on, and I thought, well, there's got to be some way to spread this word a little bit wider and invite people back into comic shops. So I basically stole the idea from the free Baskin-Robbins free scoop night that was going on right next door to my comic book store in California. So when I saw a long line out in front of the ice cream store, I thought to myself, to me, the only thing cooler than ice cream is comics. And if they can do that for ice cream and get 900 people to wait in line for a free ice cream cone, imagine what we could do if we gave free comic books to people just as a way to say, look what's going on in comics, come on in, the water's fine. And so we took that idea. It was published in the magazine I was writing for at the time, and then we had a couple of meetings around it and decided to set the date for the first Saturday in May in 2002, which was the day after the first Spider-Man movie debuted. So the Free Comic Book Day hasn't always been tied to a movie release. There were a couple of years there where there was no movie release the first Saturday in May, but Hollywood has wised up and has seen the error of its ways and has come back and given us a good strong comic book movie every single year now. So it's nice that Hollywood has caught up to comics finally.
And that was Joe Field, the creator and founder of Free Comic Book Day. And he's right. This comic book day, like I was talking about earlier, it coincides with Spider-Man. So, and I don't think there's a Spider-Man title this comic book day, this Free Comic Book Day. Oh, so guys, I'll have some live shows from Free Comic Book Day, maybe one or two, depending on where I am and who I'm talking to. What else? And there'll be some videos, so you can catch those on the blog, or you can catch my new YouTube channel, the Blurred HQ. Just search that in on YouTube, and it should come up. Or YouTube.com/the Blurred HQ. I met some really nice people over there that like what I do. My Swedish friend Joakim Comic Center. He reviews comic books and some others, but he's very complimentary of what I do. So you look for the videos there. I don't know if I have any live videos. I want to do a what's it called? A hangout, a Google Hangout during Free Comic Book Day, but I don't know if I'm able to do it or not. But anyhow, so that was Joe Field, and the Amazing Spider-Man is coming out the same weekend as Free Comic Book Day, and so it's going to promote some interest in the movie and free comic books, the Free Comic Book Day event. So check it out. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about it again. And so like I said in the title of the blog, Wolverine D.O.A, or I should say D.O.J, because it's not starting until June. They're going to start killing, probably the most popular Marvel character. I would say hands down, Wolverine is probably the most popular character in the Marvel universe. I have to say, although there's some other ones that have peaked and ebbed, here and there, with the Avengers being everywhere, and then the standalone movies from the Avengers. I'm sure they have increased in their popularity, but I have to say Wolverine is probably one of the most popular. But I will say this, I've never really been a big Wolverine fan. I liked how he was portrayed in the X-Men animated series. Remember that in the 90s? I liked that Wolverine. In the comic books, I like the X-Men Wolverine. I never liked the standalone story Wolverines. Like, he has several of his own books. There's the Origins, there's the Savage Wolverine now, and there's a whole bunch of them. I have books. I have the diecast book that I'm actually selling on eBay. It was sitting right here, but I don't know where it is now. But I really, not that interested. But anyhow, they're going to start killing him in June. And as you know, if you follow or if you're on the cusp of knowing what's going on with some of the X-books, Wolverine, who is now the headmaster of the Jean Grey School for Mutants, he lost his healing factor. And that happened in the Wolverine movie. He lost his healing factor. And so now they're saying that since he doesn't have his healing factor, all the people that have tried to kill him before, they're going to try again, and they're going to start it in his main book now, and then and then June it would be Wolverine 3 months to die, July 2 months to die, and so on and so forth, and then September a weekly series is going to come out called The Death of Wolverine. So, how do you guys feel about that? Can they kill off that major of a character, or is it going to be like a story that happens but really doesn't happen, or somebody's going to? It'd be really cool in the last issue of that Death of Wolverine, that if Jean Grey comes back, the Phoenix Jean Grey, and saves him. Now that would be cool. I would like that, but I don't think they're not listening to me, right? So, but they're going to do it. Let me see. I forget who. I missed the page. if you guys ever read or go on comicbookresources.com, gives you all kind of information that I love to talk about here. Let's see. Charles Soule and artist Steve McNiven are going to chronicle the death of Wolverine. And the whole series is going to talk about various aspects of Wolverine's long and multifaceted life. And then the interview was done with Charles Soule. He says, just doing this is just like, one of those kind of career things. Like, if I have an opportunity to do this, no matter what else I'm doing, I have to do this story. And so I hope in a way that they don't, alleviate some of the Marvel fans that are solely there for Wolverine. But I will say, I think the X movies, they depend too much on him. Even though I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, they depend too much on him. And I also like Liv Schreiber as Sabretooth. Liv Schreiber as Sabretooth. If there's another movie that he's going to be in, pay him whatever he wants, because he was the best Sabretooth. And to me, he was the only Sabretooth. Anyhow, and each story is going to focus on a different era of Wolverine's history. It's going to be an origin type, that he's vulnerable. He can do what he can do to survive. And he's waiting for somebody to fix his healing factor, which, if he's going to die, that's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to find out how to do it at the very last minute, but it's going to be too late. But then they'll bring him back. We might have to wait a year, but they'll bring him back. He'll come back as somebody else. I don't like him without the adamantium claws. I don't like that. It's going to be interesting. And some of the artwork that they're already leaking from this, out of control. Out of control. Which you guys see it. So check that out. Starting in June, Wolverine, one of the fanboys' faves, is going to be dying, and we'll find out what happens in September when the death of Wolverine begins in September. And our last main story was, what are the nerdiest states in America? Number 1 is Utah. Utah is the most nerdy state in America. Number 2 is Alaska. Obviously, a lot of cosplayers in Alaska. And how they've got this information, they went through Facebook posts and how many people, what they liked, whether it was cosplay, comic books, movies, different kind of nerd genres, and they kind of compiled it in some formula and come up with, what the nerdiest states in America were. Coming in 3 was Wyoming. And their big thing was Harry Potter. Idaho is cosplay. Colorado was number 5 with Harry Potter. Washington, Star Wars. So if you're a Star Wars fan, the state of Washington wants you. Kentucky, which is really surprising that it's one of the top nerdiest states, is big in cosplay and anime movies, and Doctor Who. Oh, but Lord of the Rings is big. Oh, maybe because they all look like hobbits. I'm just playing Kentucky. No shade. Number 8 was Oregon, with a lot of cosplayers. Cosplay is big. Harry Potter's big. Star Wars is big. And comic books are big. And comic books are also big in Washington, D.C., in the state of Washington. Not Washington, D.C., the state of Washington. Number 8 was New Mexico, with big on the Harry Potter books. Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy. Fantasy LIT, whatever that means. Let me see. Number 10 was, again, these states that I think are kind of hickerbilly. They're in the most nerdiest states. West Virginia, big on Star Trek, The Next Generation, cosplay, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings. In Indiana, the state that I live in, we made it in the top. We always made the top 10, but we made the top 14. Number 11, Indiana, big on Star Trek The Next Generation, Harry Potter, Dungeons and Dragons, LARPing. Yeah, not a LARPer. If you know what a LARPer is, these guys are dressed up in these kind of medieval costumes and they make swords and medieval weaponry replicas, and they fight each other. It's really extensive. I don't understand it, but remember if you ever watched Supernatural, Felicia Day's characters, I want to say Sid, but she was Sid on the Guild. She was a LARPer, and that's when they introduced her back into this season of Supernatural, which is getting really good, by the way. The Lord of the Rings, Indiana, and Magic the Gathering, but that's big everywhere, and not so much on comic books, which I'm surprised. Number 12 was Kansas, big on cosplay and LARPing as well, and Magic the Gathering. Number 13 was Maine. Star Trek, the new generation, the next generation. I'm sorry, and really big in cosplay. Oh, go ahead, Maine. Anime movies and LARPing. I need to check out this LARP. Can y'all see my big black behind running around in a medieval costume, fighting other grown men? That's not gonna happen. But hey, if that's your nerd, that's your nerd. Knock it out. And number 14 was Wisconsin, which is big in cosplay and anime movies and LARPing as well. So I need to start a LARPing business because obviously it's worldwide. And some of the most nerd hell states were South Dakota, Delaware, Connecticut, New York, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia. So I came back home to a nerdy state, New Jersey, Mississippi, and Washington, D.C. So that was interesting. So check that out. That's on io9.com. What are the nerdiest states? And I'll have links to this on the5x5.blogspot.com. So lastly, and I thank you guys who have stayed up with me. I know everybody probably has went to bed. Thank you guys for hanging out. We got 2 more minutes left of the show, so I'm going to run through my comic book grab for this week, or the week of April the 23rd. What was really cool, you know, the new comic book, Inhuman, which I think it comes not next week, but the next week. No, it should come out this month because I don't know why I didn't see it. But there was a free lithograph promoting the comic that features the Queen of the Inhumans, Medusa, which is a really good lithograph by Joe Maduria. Love it. So I grabbed that because it was free. So you can go to your local comic book store. I'm sure they'll have them at Free Comic Book Day on Saturday. And then I got a really cool book in the mail last Monday by Peter Samedi, who made a graphic novel that I will be talking to him pretty soon on one of the shows. And he drew me a little picture and said for David, which was really nice. And it's called The Chair. It's a graphic novel. Check that out. And then real quick I bought some comic books on eBay. The thing about buying comic books on eBay, if you don't do a lot of research and you don't look at the books and the pictures aren't that really good, but it's a good price, you might want to send them back. Although, and me and this person on eBay had a conversation. He says, well, I said it was in very good condition. I'm like, that's true, but as a collector and people who collect comic books, you knew better than to send me this mess. I wanted the Young Avengers Marvel Now series, because this year it won the most outstanding comic book given out by the GLAAD organization during their media awards. So I wanted at least number one, but it had one through five for $10. And when I got it, they were kind of in horrible condition. I'm still debating whether to keep them. Because I will say the number one issue is in good condition, but yeah, number 4 and number 2 are dirty. The covers are dirty, and because they're kind of white covers. And then number 3 has where you held the comic book, and it's not a gloss, it's more of a matte finish than a gloss finish. And then if you got, because your fingers have enzymes on them, and if it holds too long, sometimes paint or like the color will come off, and that's what happened on that one. And then number 5, it's in okay condition, so I'm debating on whether I want to keep it, but I had to give him a bad rating because it pissed me off that he sent me that mess. But anyhow, I went to the comic book store twice. I went on Wednesday, and I also went on Saturday. And so what I got on Wednesday, which is NCBD, New Comic Book Day, that's one of my favorite hashtags now. I picked up Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is a continuation of the New Rules story that was introduced in the season opener, issue 1. And then on Saturday I wanted the second cover because the covers are really, really nice. I love the artwork. So I have both covers of Buffy season 10, issue number 2, both copies. Justice League United, which I'm probably not picking up again because I didn't understand the comic book, but it got a lot of buzz. I don't read the Justice League title, so this was going to be my introduction into a new title, but it didn't work for me. I don't know if I'm picking it up or not. One of my favorites and one of the standouts from New Comic Book Day was the Elektra comic. The artwork is sick, and when I tell you the artwork is sick, it's sick. And just the cover alone was enough to make somebody say, "Hey, I want to check that out." Good story. I'm going to pick this up again just to see what's going to happen. So check out Elektra number 1, Original Sin. Who is the Watcher? Number 0 of 8. This is a Nova story. I've never read a Nova book in the Marvel Universe. I do know who the Watcher is, and this kind of mixed the two. And we find out some background about the Watcher and his father. This was a daddy issue. This is not daddy issues, but this was a daddy issue. So check out Original Sin. I'm definitely picking this up because a lot of things that are going to happen in this story arc is going to affect the Marvel Universe, and I can't wait to see what. Batman Eternal number 3. The weekly series from DC Comics and the New 52 is developing really nicely. They've introduced just about all of the Batman family. This issue we've seen Stephanie Brown, who was a Robin at one time, and then her father, the Clue Master, and everybody, the bad guys are going into gang warfare. And then you have the shady cops, but the bad guy gang warfare in Gotham is going down in this book. So check out Batman Eternal. It's in issue number 3. It's only $2.99. We're talking about it on Comic Booked on Thursday nights on Blog Talk Radio. And then a comic book that I walked past 1,001 times. 1,001 times. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy a She-Hulk book. I'm going to say this, and people will get mad at me. I'm not crazy about the art in the inside. I'm just not crazy about it. I like the content. I like the story. But, the cover art is out of control. But I got a first printing of She-Hulk number 2. I'm still looking for a first printing of She-Hulk number 1, but I also grabbed number 3. Check that out. Flash number 30. We'll probably not pick it up again. I don't know. I'm going to peek through it, 31, and see what's going on in the Flash universe. There's some flashbacks. Something happened. Somebody died. There's a blue Flash that really is Barry Allen, and Wally West was killed. Don't know what's really going on, but I'll have to figure it out. And then last but not least is Daredevil, and I got the Chris Samney cover, which I absolutely love. He's in San Francisco now. This is Daredevil number 1, and Matt Murdock. And I thing is that the Elektra book, it's funny that they both come out the same day because they used to date. She talks about Matt Murdock on the first few panels of Elektra 1, but this is a good comic book. I love the art. I love where the story is going. He saves a girl that has a bomb inside of her, and so I want to know where this goes. So love the movie. I loved both the Elektra movie. I loved the Daredevil movie. A lot of people didn't like it. I don't know why, because I thought they were good, but I'm not always. Sometimes I like things that not every, but some other people don't like, and that I guess that makes me a unique fanboy in that respect, because everybody's not gonna like the same thing. We all not gonna like the same type of Kool-Aid, right? And I feel like I've been talking for ever and a day, and I appreciate you guys letting me talk and run my mouth and talk about the nerdy stuff that I like to talk about here on the Fanboy Weekly Show. We will be back sometime this week with a regular 5x5 show, and next weekend, free comic book day, Amazing Spiderman. Look for a lot of stuff from Fanboy Weekly. Check out the comic book show on Blog Talk Radio. Thank you guys for listening. I'm your host, David. It's Fanboy Weekly, and we'll see you next time. Y'all have a good week, everyone.